Good evening and welcome in to this week's edition of the STL Cards 2024 season scrapbook episode brought to you by Peace, Love, and Baseball. I am your host, Burd Tweets. And if you thought that we were going to skip this week because Cardinals haven't been playing so hot, had a 7-game losing streak, you are mistaken. I am still here. I will be here every week regardless. Here for you, here for me, here for the Cardinals. But I did go to the game. I got to go to the game in Milwaukee at American Family Field yesterday. So yeah, I didn't get home until, after 7 p.m. Central. And I figured I would be refreshed and we do a little kind of like pregame recap episode while we are waiting for about another hour and a half here, if you're with us live, until the Cardinals and Angels game starts out on the West Coast tonight on Monday, May 13th. If you are listening, this has populated in your podcast feed on Tuesday, May 14th. And I think we're ready for a new week. We can all agree on that. So this is the 6th full week of the Major League Baseball season. This is actually the quarter mark through the season. Yeah, we're about 25% through of games already, which is crazy. And it makes you look at the standings and the records and stuff and just put a little bit more meaning to them because of that. But this week 6, Monday, May 6th through Sunday, May 12th, at the end of the week, the Cardinals stand at 16-24. They are 8 games under 500 and just 1 game better than their record was at this point in the season last year. Y'all, I think that is something I'm having trouble coming to terms with because I have been very adamant about the positive differences of this season versus last season. But one of the other statistics that I saw this week, and I think it was at that Monday game, it was either the Monday, actually, I think it was the Tuesday game. Tuesday was the 28th different lineup used by the Cardinals so far this season. And that was something that we've talked a little bit about in these episodes, but I talked a lot about last season and the lack of consistency and just that kind of clear communication piece of guys knowing what their job is. And especially when you're looking for a break, of being able to leverage those advantages that you do have when you have a certain level of consistency. And professional hitters and players in the game have talked about that as well. And of course, that's where I've taken that perspective from, as it's not something I can personally apply, but there's probably even more to it than I personally know. Anyway, let's go through the games. We'll try to make it quick. We're just going to rip the Band-Aid off because Monday, May 6th versus the Mets at Busch Stadium, Kyle Gibson was on the mound. He went 6 innings on 91 pitches. He allowed 3 runs, 2 of them earned. He walked 2 and struck out 4. The Cardinals offense was led by, stop me if you've heard this before, Willson Contreras, who doubled to drive in Jose Fermin and finally got the Birds on the board in the 6th inning. Ivan Herrera followed up with a double of his own to bring in Wilson and Goldie and tie the game at 3. Andrew Kittredge didn't have the best week this week. He's still pretty solid, but this isn't the last time you're going to hear his name in the sense of giving some stuff up. Kittredge gave up a home run to Brandon Nimmo in the 7th for the Mets to take the lead before we saw Fernandez, King, and Robertson come in to keep the Mets at bay. The Cardinals can't make it happen at the plate, and they lose 4-3 to start out the week. Heading into Tuesday, May 7th, the Cardinals jumped out to an early lead, scoring 3 runs off of the Mets starter Budo in the 1st. A Brendan Donovan home run, his 4th of the year, got it going. Then Nolan Arenado made a productive out to score Lars Nootbaar. And Alec Burleson kept the line moving with a single to score Willson Contreras. This is where the fun stopped even quicker than it started. In the top of the 2nd inning, Mets DH JD Martinez swung and hit my catcher, Willson Contreras, in the forearm, sending our catcher into writhing and obvious pain. I mean, I have never seen that guy. Catchers, they are a breed of their own. Willson is tough as nails. I've never seen him react that way. And so we knew instantly that it was brutal. Bob, I appreciate you being here with me. I know it is a painful recap, but we are stronger for reliving it and getting through it together. Ben makes a great point that Nolan Gorman is waking up, and that's certainly a highlight that we'll hear even more about as we get into the games later in the week. But yeah, this was the moment that I want to just rip out of the scrapbook, tear it apart, cut it up into tiny little pieces, and forget it ever happened. But we're going to have trouble forgetting that it happened because it's going to dictate a big part of the next probably 10 weeks, right? So fractured forearm for Wilson Contreras. Herrera came in to replace Wilson in this game, who is likely to miss around 10 weeks after having surgery the next day. Pedro Pajes was recalled from Memphis as the backup catcher. Miles Michaelis went just 4 innings, allowing 9 hits, 6 earned runs, and striking out 3. And that damn Nimmo hit another home run, this time for 3 runs to tie the game in the bottom of the 5th. Pete Alonso, he did polar bear things, and he had a 2 RBI double in the same inning, and the Mets just, they kept adding on. We did get a Burley bomb, solo home run from Alec Burleson, in line with Gorman. Very much love what we're seeing from Alec Burleson at the plate these days. And that was in the bottom of the 6th, but the polar bear clapped back again with a home run of his own and pulled the Mets even further ahead in the 9th. We did see a nice Newt bomb that went straight out to center field in the bottom of the 9th, and we'd call it a game, but the Cardinals fell short and lost to the Mets 7-5. The silver lining of this game was the major league debut of Cardinals reliever Chris Roycroft. You with me? How fun was it to watch his family cheer him on in the stands? So we get to the 8th inning. Tragedy has struck. It's already been tough. It's a tough time to be a Cardinals fan. And then, not even arguably our best player who has brought the most value to the team thus far, gets taken out with, I think it was definitely before the 8th inning. Pretty quickly, we knew that Wilson Contreras was down for good for a decent amount of time. And it was a, rather severe injury, not going to be one of those day-to-day situations. But Chris Roycroft, he had his whole family. And how cool is that? Like, of course they were going to come because he got called up, but he's a relief pitcher. There's no guarantee that he's going to pitch, but they were all there. They were so excited. They were just living and breathing pitch to pitch. And it literally made my sappy little heart just grow even bigger, swell, like little emoji tears in my eyes, because that's why we love this game. And that's why it's worth watching even in the 8th inning of a brutal one like this. Chris pitched the 8th inning. He allowed 2 hits, a run, and he struck out 2 in his major league debut. We move on to Wednesday, May 8th, where the baseball gods cried for the Cardinals so hard, so very hard on Wednesday that the game was postponed. Was it rain? No, it was tears from the baseball gods for Wilson Contreras and the St. Louis Cardinals. That game is going to be made up later in the season on August 5th. So check back in for that one. Thursday, May 9th versus the Brewers, the Milwaukee Brewers at American Family Field. This might have been my least favorite game of the week. As we're going through these, would love to hear from you. What was your least favorite game of the week? If you had to pick one, just put it out there. But yeah, Thursday, May 9th might have been my least favorite, because the one thing that we've come to count on this season is Sonny Gray, right? Sonny Gray showing up to chase the clouds away, but Sonny, he didn't have his best stuff. He went 5 innings on 88 pitches. He gave up 7 hits, 6 earned runs, a walk, and 6 strikeouts. He had given up just 1 home run coming into this game. I believe that was Pete Alonso's 200th career home run, actually. But he had given up that 1 home run, but he gave up 3 home runs in this game alone. He just was not on. The lone Cardinals run would come on a Newt bomb, his second in the past 2 games. And this was the first big league start of catcher Pedro Pajes' career, and we did get another Roycroft appearance. So gotta pull out those silver linings there. This time, Chris pitched a 5-pitch scoreless inning. So that was pretty cool to see. And his family did travel up to American Family Field, so we got to experience their excitement again. So nicely done by Chris, but the Cardinals dropped this one hard, and lose 7-1. Let's keep it rolling right into Friday, May 10th. Did I say the Thursday game was my least favorite? I think this game might actually be my least favorite. Bob says, I don't remember which day it was, but when I hit rock bottom was when the Cardinals had the bases loaded and no one out and then proceeded to go 1-2-3. It may have even happened more than once. Bob, it did. It happened. It's happened more than a few times this season and last season. It's a reoccurring thing, but I know exactly what you mean. And unfortunately, it's like they load the bases and that somehow is Cardinals kryptonite and all hope is lost, right? But yeah, Friday didn't make me feel any better than Thursday. Lance Lynn gets his first loss of the season. He went 4 2/3 innings. He allowed 5 hits, 5 runs. 4 of them were earned. He walked 2 and struck out 5. Matthew Liberatore would come in to back him up. Not Libby's best outing. And here's where I wonder, there's this lack of clarity, right, of Liberatore's role again. And like, he's going to start tomorrow on Tuesday, the 14th against the Angels. I've talked a little bit before about the organization's kind of mismanagement or just confusing management, lack of straightforwardness and clarity on what his role is and how he can be best set up for success. So I don't know. I'm not making excuses for him, but he did allow 3 hits and 2 runs with a strikeout, and the Brewers kept piling it on. Kyle Leahy pitched an inning and a third. He allowed 4 runs before Chris Roycroft came in to get more scoreless time in. Thank you, Chris. He went an inning and 2/3, allowing just 1 hit and striking out 2. The Cardinals offense squeaked out just 2 runs in comparison to the Brewers' 11. Alec Burleson doubled to drive in Herrera in the 7th, and Nolan Gorman went yard. Starting to get warm around Gormania at the plate, and we do love to see that. He hit a big fly before we all went home in the 9th, but Cardinals lose again, 11-2. Saturday, May 11th. We're almost there, folks. There is a small, tiny little light at the end of the tunnel. This was a more competitive game, but it had just as frustrating of an outcome. Kyle Gibson went 5 innings. He allowed 3 hits, 2 runs, 4 walks, and struck out 7. Otherwise, big time stuff there from JoJo, who would come in to get Kyle out of a jam. Before that, the Cardinals put up 2 runs in the 5th when Lars Nootbaar singled in Matty Karp and Gorman would double to drive in Herrera for the 3rd Cardinals run in the 6th. So as I mentioned, Gibson left the game in the 6th with the bases loaded, and Joe Romero came in to clean it up. Did the Cardinals win the Edmundo Sosa trade? I know I'm not really big on like who won a trade. I like to see trades work out for both sides. Isn't that kind of the point? And also, like, it's very fluid. You can't really say. So I think that's actually why I don't necessarily like to say who won. Edmundo Sosa has been very valuable for the Phillies. I think it's just one that worked out, but man, am I glad that we have Jojo Romero. So he came in, bases loaded, and he cleaned it up. He allowed only 1 run to score when he hit Gary Sanchez with the bases loaded. So that was kind of a bummer, but all things considered, big time stuff from Jojo Romero. That run was credited to Kyle Gibson. The Cardinals led 3-2 going into the bottom of the 7th when Andrew Kittredge gave up a hit, a walk, and then allowed a 3-run home run. That Rhys Hoskins signing did us in today, or did us in on Saturday, rather. So the Brewers pulled ahead 5-3. That score would ultimately hold up, and the Cardinals went over a week without winning a baseball game. So I had to show up. I had to do my part. Sunday, May 12th. We decided we better show up and help the Birds turn it around. Miles Mikolas picks up a quality start and a win. He went 6 innings. He allowed 3 runs, 3 walks. He was being squeezed by that home plate umpire. I was at the game, so, I was checking my trusty at-bat app for little game day action. He was being squeezed. But he ultimately struck out 3 as well. All 3 runs given up by Miles Mikolas came in the first inning. He made quite the recovery, and this is something that the Cardinals media team is never going to let us forget, and not even the front office. The message is strong. Like, this is why we have these guys. This is why we have the veteran pitchers. And it's true. Like, there is a mental part of the game and a mental strength that they do bring just from the reps. And we're seeing that more and more with a lot of players just throughout the league, not just pitchers, but the younger guys who, it's not that they don't have the talent. It's not that the moment is even too big for them. They just quite literally haven't had the reps to be put in that situation to know how to mentally overcome it. And here's a spot where Miles Michaelis threw 49 pitches in the first inning of this game. So I had a Bloody Mary before I went into the stadium, and I was like, how fast can we drink beers? Because this is, it's, 7-game losing streak, and our starter just threw 49 pitches and gave up 3 runs. Might be a rough one, right? But he got through the next 5 innings with 46 pitches total through 5 whole innings. So he threw a total of 46 pitches in 5 innings and 49 in just that first inning alone to complete his outing, and he kept the Cardinals in the game. So this was also the Ollie Marmol Daniel Descalzo ejection game, as you might recall. In the top of the third, it was ruled that Ivan Herrera was out at first on what appeared to be an inning-ending double play. The Cardinals challenged the call, and replays showed that Herrera was safe. So double play no more. It is now a fielder's choice. And bench coach Daniel Descalzo and Ollie Marmol argued about the 2 missed initial calls and were ejected by home plate umpire Alan Porter. Maybe this is because I was at the game. I didn't watch like the replay or like how the broadcast covered this. So if you were watching it and have some insight from there, please feel free to share it with me, because it seemed like tensions were just rising, and they were actually maybe upset about, again, Michaelis squeezed strike zone. There was another, in the top half of this inning, or the bottom half of the previous inning, Crawford actually threw someone out on the Brewers, and they had to challenge that call too. So I think they were just kind of like, tensions were high. They were like, are you get some money line on the Brewers here, or what's up? So maybe that was it. But yeah, so they got the call like overturned in their favor and then blew up and got ejected. The one thing that I'm going to tell you that I do love about one Ollie Marmol is that man gets his money's worth. He puts on a freaking show, and I love it. If you're going to do it up. And he did it. I am here for it. I did enjoy Cardinals gifts, all the gifts. If you're not following Cardinals gifts on Twitter, you got to do it. Shout out a happy birthday to the one and only Cardinals gifts today. I hope we get to celebrate with the Cardinals win. But yeah, while you're there watching or wishing gifts a happy birthday, check out the Ollie Marmol GIF coverage from being tossed. Yes, Marmol was asked after the game, and he said, like, I got no problem with the umps. I was just trying to fire the team up, is kind of what it sounded like he was saying. So they're just doing their job, and it's kind of weird, but maybe this is the break the Cardinals needed. Thanks, Ollie. Matt Carpenter led off for the Cardinals to channel all the good old days and veteran leadership. The Cardinals would pick up their first runs on a Paul Goldschmidt home run in the 5th. You heard that right. A Paul Goldschmidt home run, baby. There was a little boy sitting in front of me, had his Paul Goldschmidt shirt on. He had his glove. Oh, he was a huge Goldie fan. He kept talking about Goldie with his dad the whole time. And he was probably like 5 years old, 5, maybe 6. I don't know. He's a little guy, but he was very articulate, which is why he's probably a little older than I thought he was. Anyway, how pumped was I for him, and also me and all of us, that Paul Goldschmidt is hitting the ball hard again. Oh, thank goodness. So yeah, we get this Goldie home run, and then Goldie ties the game with an RBI single in the top of the 6th. Michael Ciani had a 2-hit day, and he would pick up the game-winning RBI on a double to drive in Brendan Donovan. That double was maybe almost kind of a home run, but it was reviewed and not a home run. Fortunately, that was the game-winning RBI that we needed, because then JoJo, Kittredge, and our closer, Ryan Helsley, came in to get it done. Finally, a Cardinals winner. 4-3. Barely hanging on over the Brewers on a beautiful Mother's Day in Milwaukee. It was absolutely gorgeous day for baseball. If you have not been to American Family Field and you have the opportunity to go up there, I would greatly encourage you to do so. I have gone up there many times since I have lived in the Chicago area, and they just do it upright. It's very easily accessible. The stadium is beautiful. There's a lot of great food and drink options, very family friendly. I don't know, I just always have a great time when I go there. And the roof was open yesterday because it was so beautiful. It just, thank goodness, because that game is really the solace. At least we get to wrap it up on that note, right? As we head into a new week, we are going to cover our scrapbook moment of the week, because that's what we do here on these 2024 season scrapbook episodes. We've also got Bird's Bird of the Week, a player that we'll highlight and call out and make note of, and then we'll wrap it up with the official vibe check. So let's do it. This week's scrapbook moment of the week. Put a poll out for you all on Twitter. So if you're not following along on Twitter, make sure that you are, because you can vote. You can have your voice be heard and select the moment that we are going to tape down for posterity as the scrapbook moment of this week. There were, you're like, Kelsey, what do we want to remember about this week? Well, there were plenty of things. Chris Roycroft debut. Yeah, we've got Nolan Gorman, Alec Burleson, even Lars Nootbaar, like, starting to do more things. There are some things that are happening. There are just not baseball games that are being won. But at the end of the day, at the end of the week, we know that the scrapbook moment of this week had to be that Paul Goldschmidt home run, along with the game-winning RBI single in yesterday's Mother's Day game. Get this, and I know you know it if you watched or listened to any of the coverage. Goldie was 0 for 32 coming into his 9th inning at bat in Saturday's game. This was a silver lining. See, this is why this is a scrapbook moment, because they lost on Saturday, but it's okay. It was saved for me by this. He had struck out 4 times in his 4 at-bats in this game. It was a national broadcast, so they were pointing all of this out with not nearly as much emotion or compassion as, our home broadcast would have, just by nature. So Lars Nootbaar, Newt came up to bat, and there was 2 outs, and I'm like, man, I hate to say this, but I just want him to get out, because I cannot bear to watch Goldie make the final out of this game with the game tying, like when he is the game tying run at the plate. Like, I just can't think of anything worse. But Nootbaar, he does what he does. He worked the walk, and Goldie had to come up to the plate in the 9th of this 5-3 game. I could not stand to watch Goldie make that final out, and thankfully we didn't have to, because he ripped a 103.3 mile per hour single to extend the game. He has never, ever struck out 5 times in a game, and he hasn't struck out 4 times in a game since 2021. Oh, man, the weight of that loss was just lifted by the fact that it didn't have to end that way for me. So the moments that were put in the scrapbook this week came in Sunday's Mother's Day game, when Paul Goldschmidt had 3 of the 4 RBIs on the day, the first 2 coming on a home run in the 5th inning to pick up his team and turn it around. Goldie then tied the game on an RBI single in the 6th. Paul Goldschmidt, baby. Book it. I want nothing but good things for Goldie in this life. But one of the hard things about professional sports is it's so rare that there isn't some sort of decline, right? It's the nature of the game. It's the nature of getting older and doing something that is so physically performance-based for a living. I'm just not ready. I'm not ready for that with Goldie yet, and I don't feel like it's time. So I know that's the big question that everybody's asking and speculating on. Let me know what you think. I think he's been making better contacts. It seems like his timing was just really the thing that has been off, but man, there were even a couple of those strikeouts in Saturday's game where I was just like, I don't know if I've ever seen him look quite this just like off kilter, and that was concerning, but he's back in that 3 spot in the lineup, and so glad that we get to put that in the scrapbook as a memory for the 2024 season. Well, if Paul Goldschmidt isn't Bird's Bird of the Week, who is? One, Chris Roycroft, who you have heard me talk about already in our recap, but I gotta call him out to you and tell you some fun stuff about him that maybe you don't know about already. So first of all, he is 6'8". He's a super tall dude. He is a right-hander. He attended a Division III school, Aurora University, which is located here in Aurora, Illinois, very close to where I am currently at, and near where he grew up in Dundee, Illinois. I wonder if he was a White Sox or a Cubs fan. Probably. Anyway, in his first year of college ball, he had a 6.28 ERA in 12 relief outings in 14 and a third innings pitched. Not at Division III. Okay? Yikes. After much work and slow improvement, though, he became a full-time starter by his senior year, where he showed much better control, but he was only striking out 7.8 batters per 9 innings as a senior in Division III ball. So it just doesn't sound like a guy who is going to get noticed to play professionally, let alone to play in Major League Baseball. He went undrafted when he graduated in 2019, and he didn't play in 2020. In 2021, he signed a contract with the Joliet Slammers of the Frontier League, finishing the season with a 5.81 ERA as a swingman. So a few starts coming out of the bullpen as well, a little back and forth there, just trying to make it work. Doesn't exactly seem like the start of a big league career, but he had a 1.08 ERA with a 33% strikeout rate in his first 13 innings with Joliet, and that was enough to catch the Cardinals' eye. While his stats aren't always super consistent or pretty throughout the Cardinals minor league system over the last year or two, Roycroft pitched well enough in high A to start the year in Peoria in single A with the Chiefs and end in triple A. So he just shot his way up to Memphis. He had thrown 13 innings this year so far with Memphis before he was called up to join the big league team. Come on up. I don't know if you saw this, but I absolutely loved the shot of his LinkedIn page that has been going around. He worked as a delivery driver for Jimmy John's in Elmhurst, Illinois in 2016. And maybe this is more fascinating for me because I'm like, my office is in Elmhurst, Illinois. So I'm like, it's a few miles down the street. He worked at Dick's Sporting Goods in 2017 to 2018 and as a shop employee at Frank's Classic Cars from 2019 to 2021. All whilst pursuing his baseball career and going from a couple seasons with the Joliet Slammers in 21 and 22 to now playing professionally at the highest level with the Cardinals. You love to see it. I don't know. You may or may not know about me that I've worked professionally as an actor, and I went to school for it, and I've got to do some really cool things, but I think I always have a sweet spot for these kinds of stories because not everybody, you can have a certain level of talent, but not everyone has the same like set of circumstances. And I mean, just the fact that like he was playing college ball, but he was also working the whole time. And like, that's something that I personally can really relate to. And I just think it's cool that he, never let the narrative write it for him, and he just kept pushing through. And here he is. So it was really fun to see him make his debut, do some good work, get some good stuff done at times. And he was always coming in. They're bringing him in now in like low leverage situations, obviously, where they're probably not going to win and nothing too serious, but he's really proving himself in those opportunities. so far. So I am interested to see how they will continue to use him moving forward. Chris Roycroft, friends and fans, the Bird's Bird of the week. Love it. All right. Yes, Steve, you get it. Something every actor can relate to. Yes, and you think about any kind of career, well, there's a lot of things where you have to do, you have to work your way up, and some people just have it easier than others, and it doesn't make it any less great when they do it and them any less deserving of it, but when you see the guy was freaky fast at delivering sandwiches while he was also working on that fastball. That's just a story that hits me right here. We have made it to the official vibe check of the week, and I know that is what y'all are here for. And with the vibe check, we are going to discuss, yes, a bit of the casual fan conversation comments made by Bill DeWitt III. But last week, our vibe check was that the team was kind of stuck in the mud. And I do kind of feel like they're still most of the week been stuck in the mud. Oh, let's move on to the vibe check. Been stuck in the mud for sure. That's still a thing. But it's like, are they going to sink or are they going to swim and are we going to get into the watery parts of the mud? Are we going to be able to spread our wings a little bit, get some traction, get it going? Or are we having another 2023 season? Now is the time. We are a quarter of a way through the season, and we're getting to the point where I can't keep making excuses for where they're falling in the standings or pretending that they could be set up for anything different in the long run. And that doesn't mean that there won't still be things to watch for and enjoy, even if they do kind of plummet in the standings. But for what we're looking at in terms of like, I want to watch baseball in October. I'm going to watch baseball in October. And I prefer to watch Cardinals baseball in October. And that's something that we have come to expect as a Cardinals fan base. And I think this is really the time here, these last couple weeks of May, where it is sink or swim time. They've either figured enough out, they're either able to push through it and like, again, just shake the weird vibes off and be a new team or not. And here are the big questions that I think are going to help us figure out if they're sinking or swimming. Paul Goldschmidt is a big key. Has he got it figured out? Was this weekend a good enough indicator that, he could be turning things around, because he is just the energy around a struggling Goldie it's not his fault. It just is like when that's happening, it's really hard for everything else to feel like there's not just like this added pent up pressure. So Goldie, we know he's a big piece. And I mean, he did everything for the Cardinals in 2022 and a lot in 2023 as well. So we know that this guy has got to be able to come through if the offense is ultimately going to be successful, which we brought up earlier here as well. Question number 2, can we start to see consistent production from the likes of Nolan Gorman, Lars Nootbaar, and others to get this offense out of its serious funk? Because even in the games that we are winning, we're not scoring more than 4 or 5 runs. Yikes. I will say it until I'm blue in the face. This team is built to win higher scoring games. And if they were last season too. And it's funny because I was very adamant, as we all were, about them addressing the pitching issue, but the offense did not make a case for anything last season either. And it's funny to me, like, I really thought, that is where I keep coming back to this, I really thought that we were going to see this more consistent lineup. We heard that messaging from Ollie Marmol, and it just has not happened. And I'm like, the one thing you haven't tried is just keeping it solid and giving it a chance to work. So if we start to see some more consistency out of these guys, maybe they will feel like they can do that. The other big piece is there's a lot of speculation about what's going on internally, right? What changes can or will be made. And I know a lot of fans are probably not going to want to hear this, but like, I I don't think anything's going to change. And I don't think it necessarily needs to. Like, there is nothing black and white that I think you fix that, you fix this team. It's very nuanced, whatever is going on, because you don't have a team with this much talent that is just straight up not following through with that obvious of a problem, is all I can really make of it. I wanted to share this quote from Ollie in a post game where he said, I will wake up in the morning and I'll figure out a way to continue to have the team's back and encourage them through a really shitty time. If you guys want to get on somebody, get on me, but I'm going to continue to support the hell out of that group. Ollie he is always willing to take the blame. I shared an interview with him from the offseason that he did with Xavier Scruggs that really, I don't want to say changed my mind, because I've never been super anti-Ollie, but it really made me see him differently. And I just, I think he's willing to be the fall guy. That's why he got hired. But any sort of issues are just deeper seated. And the other big conversation that was going around amongst fans online was a conversation with Bill DeWitt III, who is the team president. He commented on a radio show interview that he has heard, quote, casual fans saying that they are not showing up to send a message. And he said that this makes him laugh because he says he puts ticket revenue right back into the team, basically saying if you don't show up, you're only hurting yourself by giving us less resources, aka your money to build a better team with. Now, there's a lot to unpack here, and we don't have all night because we've got to watch more Cardinals baseball. But the one thing that stood out to me most of all when I first listened to this was, what is Bill DeWitt's definition of a casual fan? Because my thought is, like, it's not the fans who care or know enough about what is going on with the team to take a stand and not show up. Like, if you're a casual fan, you're like going to the game a couple of times, maybe a year, because you like the atmosphere and maybe you don't live that far away, or you have family that like the team and you tag along. It's like the thing that you do when they're in town. Like, for me, a casual fan is probably someone who doesn't even know who the owner or the team president is, and they care less about like winning or losing and just about coming to games and like watching it socially. So his thought process is just a little wonky, because I think what he was trying to communicate is it's the casual fans, like the fans who only want to stick with it if we're winning, and they're not going to stick with it if we're not winning. And like, that's okay, but then you're a casual. I have a different definition. The main critique that I had after listening to this and thinking it through is that perhaps saying it, quote, makes you laugh isn't the best way to go about it. Not the best way to articulate to fans about how storied this franchise is, and that all teams go through these funks where it's not a matter of your lack of effort or your care to make the team competitive. This comment made him seem very out of touch to the fans and just to people in general. And not that I want to be a DeWitt family apologist or anything, but there is some validity to what he is saying. And one of the things that I like about the Cardinals and being a fan is that they don't just spend the most money for the sake of spending money. And even if I don't always agree with their strategy, they do invest in the long term and prioritize strategies for a team that is much more competitive than most year over year. And I think it's the fans who don't realize how much more competitive and consistent the Cardinals are than the majority of other franchises that are the types of fans that Bill DeWitt is really speaking to. But again, he's like so out of touch that he didn't connect those dots. And it just made people like leave with a bad taste in their mouth about him even more. So the frustration comes now where we're starting to see strategies fail more than succeed, and they are perhaps too slow in recognizing that and evolving with the game. I was also talking with my good friend who went to the game with me yesterday, diehard Cardinals fan for life. Wesley McKinney of Validity. And we were talking about how the balanced schedule also seems to be showing the Cardinals' weaknesses as an organization, and that this team has been built to beat Central Division teams. And I also think their hitters and maybe their approach to hitting is built around seeing pitchers more frequently. And like that, it could be, I know it's a very high level observation, but maybe we'll get more into that in the coming weeks. I thank you so much for joining me. Even though it's been a painful and weird time, we are here. We are consuming Cardinals baseball. There's still lots of good things to take in. And more importantly, week over week, we're going through it. We're working through it all here together. So we'll get back on track. We'll do Sunday night next week for our recap. And you got a new episode of Peace, Love, and Baseball coming at you tomorrow in that podcast feed, as well as on the YouTube channel. So subscribe if you are listening on your podcast platform so that you don't miss an episode. Subscribe on the YouTube channel. Maybe give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying this. Feel free to leave a comment, join in the conversation, make suggestions for things or aspects of the team that you want to talk about. And we will be back next week with another episode of the STL Cards 24 season scrapbook, brought to you by Peace, Love, and Baseball. Have a great night, y'all.